There's a very high chance that in your life, you've probably quit something. Start going to the gym and get a cold a few weeks in, quit. Starting something new and finding out it takes more than 5 days to become a professional at it, quit. Try to go on a diet and realize that good food exists, quit. Now, I'd call all these easy quits because they aren't really difficult decisions. They could be bad decisions, yes, but not really the hardest ones to make. But today I want to talk about the hard quits, the ones that are difficult and sometimes painful to do, but are super important for moving on to greater things and just progressing in general. Now, is this just an excuse to roast my first game and stop working on it? Kind of. But I feel like there's a really important lesson in here somewhere about progress and how quitting in favor of progress could actually be really helpful. So let's go back and see how I dug myself into the hole that is Brainless. Now, before you get confused, the game and the channel do have the same name. It's kind of like what some music artists do where their first album is their name. I didn't really plan this on purpose, it just happened. Anyways, this is the super historical timeline of my entire experience in game development. So let's go back to winter break 2023. One of my friends that loves to try something new every couple of months was picking up game development this time, and he wanted to recruit me, a fellow who dabbles with games, to help him. I'd never worked with making games at this point, but it seemed like a pretty fun idea. Also, starting something new with someone else is always fun since you could both fail together and laugh at it. So we basically go through tutorial after tutorial, you know how it usually goes, and a couple weeks in, he quits. Now at this point, the only joy in making games that I had was by doing it with my friend. We started it together, learned not very much together, and I wasn't really getting that spark when working alone. To this day, some of the most fun I've had making games was just attempting to make mechanics together with him. I remember spending hours with him trying to code a double jump mechanic without looking it up. For double jumping, all you really need is a counter that adds 1 for each jump, along with a maximum number. In this case 2, that doesn't let you jump when the counter reaches it. This would let you jump twice, but not jump any more than twice, so you can't just jump infinitely. This would reset each time you touch the ground, so you could jump again. And this took us multiple hours, but we had such a good time doing it. Anyways, I had an amazing time doing it, but him quitting completely took it out of me, and I didn't really find any reason to do it anymore. Now, I don't blame him for quitting. I honestly respect him for even trying, and although he kind of indirectly killed my yet-to-be-discovered passion at the time, I'm not gonna forget that he's the one that introduced me to game development. We even initially came up with the idea for Brainless together, and if it wasn't for him, I'd probably not even be here. That being said, I quit. Now, I'm not sure how to categorize this quit. It wasn't an easy quit, nor a hard quit. It was easy to quit, since I just lost a big reason to continue, but it really hurt to leave, especially since it was the first glimpse of something that I could have potentially fallen in love with, but all the fun was through him, right? 1 year later, I decided to take an elective in school about making games. I wanted to branch out a little from my oversaturated major and actually have fun for once. And this class is what changed me. The class used the Unity game engine, which I'm not the biggest fan of. No hate, it's just that I used Godot the year before and I liked how it worked a bit better. Also, Unity was making a couple wacky decisions. So I take this class, and it's basically a class for drawing sprites. No coding at all. The code was basically made for you, and all you needed to do was make the art. And that's cool and all, but I thought to myself, that's no fun. I want to make the mechanics. Why I oughta. So I took it upon myself to start a side project of my own during this class, and its name was Brainless, a Metroidvania where the main mechanic was going into the mind of your enemies and playing minigames. I was also thinking of putting a top-down enter the gungeon-esque part for when you go into the mind of bosses or transition between levels. Anyways, I start making the mechanics, art, music, and story, and I'm having the time of my life. I continue this month after month, after month, after month, and eventually arrive at where we are today. I did a game jam, and now I do not want to return to this game. It's not the game jam that makes me want to quit, but it made me realize a couple of reasons as to why quitting this specific project is probably the best choice for me. So let's go over each reason, so you can see if you either fall in the same boat, or think you're in the same boat, but actually aren't. Now, I don't think being in too deep is inherently a bad thing. Technically speaking, you need to be deep into making a game at one point in order to finish it. So if you're still enjoying the process, keep it going. I just think that having my issues at the depth that I'm at is a bit problematic. I've talked about starting with a small scope over and over, and I will never, ever change my stance on it because of this exact reason. I've dug a hole so deep with features, lore, and levels that it sounds like a masterpiece. I would just need a team of 20 people, money to pay them, and a couple years to flesh it out and make a classic. But I don't have that. It's just me, and I could spend years making it, but there's another looming issue that I think is the worst of them all. Technical debt. Technical debt is basically, I coded terribly in the past, and it is now making me suffer. Don't get me wrong, having terrible code is fine in the beginning, that's just how you learn. And if you start small, you could either abandon a small project that isn't as monumental, or get the experience of finishing and publishing a game that won't have the greatest code, which not a lot of people would even know unless you show them or have game-breaking bugs. It's honestly a win-win scenario, and the biggest losing scenario is having a big scope in your first game. Have you noticed that half of my videos mention having a small scope? I'm really hoping that if you're planning to start game development, you will heavily consider consider the scope of your first game. Put that magnum opus in the backseat. We could deal with him later. But anyways, since I've been making this game from the very start of my learning in Godot, the technical debt is there and it's clear as day. Coding a new mechanic now makes me have to go back and fix multiple old ones that are so awfully made, they should win an award for how bad they are. Now, the typical thought process in this scenario is, I've come this far, I can't stop now, right? I've worked on this for almost a year. Why should I drop it so late into development? Am I in too deep? Well, as we saw with my approximation before, not really. I am not very late into development at all. I've noticed that I've started to weigh the work I've done to get here much higher than the immense amount of stuff that I still need to do, making it seem like I'm at the bottom of the hole or even the climb up. This mindset has its pros and cons, because although ignoring your massive to-do list is bad for seeing your actual progress and progressing in general, it could be good for reassuring you that the steps you're taking are meaningful and you're almost there. But if I take a step back and look at the whole scope, that's entirely my fault for being this large. Yeah, I'm not very far at all. I briefly mentioned it in my last video, but when I saw the announcement for the Game Jam, I wasn't really making much progress on my game. My productivity was on a downward slope since like May, and it was not stopping. I've seen a lot of stories about people getting into the habit of starting new projects and abandoning old ones over and over, because the start is so much more exciting and fun to do. I'm not sure if that's what was starting to happen to me, but if it was, I feel like the Game Jam would have reignited the flame. Whenever I took breaks from making my game earlier in the journey, I would come back with an insane passion. I'd work for hours, seeing through new ideas that came to me on my breaks. One example of this is a sub-level that I made for my game, where some scary robot looking guy shoots lasers and you need to hide behind cover to get some keycard pieces. I did this whole thing in like 3 days after a break I took because of a creative block. So yeah, if you see your progress start to halt at a rapid rate, either try to take a step back to see why it's happening, or just take a break and come back a little later so the spark can try and reignite. Unfortunately for me, since I have such a strong opinion about my game's foundation, I honestly don't see myself coming back to this project, at least in the state it's in right now. Now, I feel like this one's probably the most important, since it's a pretty big indicator that there's a problem. With my game, I felt this one the least out of the others, but I feel like it's such an important reason that we should definitely cover it. So let's talk about losing enjoyment. Now, it's not impossible to get that joy back, you just need to find out what's taking it away. Do you hate doing something specific? Do you have some mechanics that need reworking? Maybe you're burnt out from working so hard? It's possible to fall out of love for a passion or hobby, but there's a pretty good chance it's just a roadblock that's making you think that way. Really consider what gave you joy in the first place and why it's not like how it was before. Maybe you feel a lack of freedom because you've boxed yourself into something you don't enjoy as much. Maybe you started with someone else and they no longer do it with you. Whatever it is, taking a break or looking for a new and fresh experience always gives a new perspective and could potentially rekindle the flame of whatever hobby you have. So what's the harm in trying? That being said, even after coming back from the Game Jam, I feel like if I kept working on Brainless, I would have started to lose my passion for it. Not because of the previously mentioned reasons, but because of the thing we all know and love. Everybody say it with me now. Because of the scope. And the technical debt. Alright, you guys didn't need to repeat that one. I did the Game Jam because I wanted a game dev vacation. Something to take me away from the huge project and see if it was just burnout or if it was something else that was blocking me. And when I came back, the enormous scope and massive technical debt were even more clear than before. The only thing that would have come with continuing development at this point would be revision after revision and anxiety to try and get it into a functional state. And that is definitely a recipe for a loss of motivation. Now I'm gonna be honest, I haven't even touched the game since the Game Jam. It's been like 2 months. So I technically unofficially quit working on it already, but I just felt the need to make it official. So everyone asking about devlogs or just wanting to see what I've done could see why I've been so apprehensive to show it off. It's honestly a mess, and it's a mess I'd have to build a skyscraper on. The foundation is just not good enough. Anyways, putting all those factors together, this is definitely not an easy quit, but I think it's necessary. What I had so far was just not very well made, the scope was huge, and I wasn't deep enough to the point where I could power through and finish the game with a couple annoying things to fix here and there. So with all of that, I quit. You didn't think I would stop making games, did you? This is my passion, and I'm gonna do it till death do us part. I feel like at this point in time, I've gotten much better at coding, and I feel like I could handle a nice compact project that I could put together and polish at my leisure. Now, am I saying my next game won't have a bad foundation or any issues? Not even close. Some comments on the previous video show that I'm not the biggest expert in coding, but the mistake I won't make this time is the scope. The lore can join the scope in the back seat, because they're way too comfortable together. Anyways, talking about a new game, yes, I'm planning to start one very soon, and I know it's a stupid idea to announce my new game when it looks like this. But look, here's the plan. Devlogs will be coming, and we will be going through this whole experience together. The coding, the art, the music, and the storytelling could stay back there for now. But yeah, at this point in the channel, I've gone through all my past experiences with game development, so I don't really have anything else to talk about. So let's start fresh. Oh hey, Welcome to Brainless, a game development channel where I, your host Luke, will be teaching each aspect of game development. I want to experiment with a style where I basically expose you guys to a bunch of different creative topics, and if I can get you to replace some YouTube time with a little bit of learning or a new hobby, that'll make me happy. Now let's start making games, shall we? Guys, this is not a drill. Look at this. The corkboard is real, and oh my goodness, it is so good. I have the first wave of fan art up there, and it is so sick. I do still need to add the other ones, so the second wave is gonna come soon, and I don't know how I'm gonna fit all of them on there, but don't worry, I will. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I experimented a little more with keyframing and like some more sounds this time around, especially near the end, so let me know if you guys liked it, because I had a lot of fun doing this one. In other news, I now have a second channel where less edited stuff will go. I've already uploaded a playthrough and developer commentary of my Game Jam game on there, and I'll probably have another one before the next main channel video. But thank you all so much for the support and the patience. My schedule is unfortunately not getting any easier, but hopefully I could have a video each month or so for you guys, plus a second channel video as an extra. But then again, I do need to work on starting to make a game on top of everything, so we'll see how consistent I'll be with everything going on. Other than that, thank you so much for watching until the end, and goodbye.